Welcome to My Safe Word is More with your hosts from Survivor and Amazing Race, Corinne Kaplan, stand-up comedian, and bolo tie-wearing Al Jackson. I'm your producer, Chris, and swimmers, please welcome our very special guest. She's a former survivor, she's a TED talker, she hosts the Dear Franny podcast, and she's an author. Her new book, How to Find True Love, is out right now. Please welcome Corinne's bestie, Francesca Hogi.
Yes.
We are so excited to have you on. So
This is very exciting for me.
yes, a little background for the swimmers. Franny has listened to every single episode, probably that I've ever recorded. And a very long time ago,
I would listen to a podcast just about that.
yeah, she is a real swimmer, but she also listened to all of my ATF stuff. And a long time ago, when I started my first ever Patreon, Franny was one of the first members to pay $5 a month because she supports her friends. And I just think that's adorable. And I love her so much. And I know that most people who have listened to me for a long time, or if you've listened to this show, literally the episode I just edited that's going out, there's a picture I put in the video of the two of us. Like I talk about you all the time. And she is my North Star in many ways. And I really am excited to bring her wisdom to you.
I feel like she calms you as well because, Franny, you don't know, before the podcast started, we were dealing with minor audio issues, and Corinne, starting the podcast, had the energy of a coach whose team is down by 35 at halftime. And when you came on, it's a rainbow in the room, and I appreciate you for that.
Max and I used to always say she's our emotional support human.
Yes.
So it's true. So let's get right into it. I had the pleasure of reading the book, which I know if you're listening, you may not have read it yet. It's coming out as you're hearing this. So if you didn't pre-order it, now would be a good time to do so. But I want to get to a little bit about sort of why you decided to write the book and who this book is for. And then we'll get into some of the things I want to talk about from the book. So go ahead.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, this is so fun having such a professional interview with Corinne. I love it.
It's going to go off the rails shortly. Don't worry.
You're going to have to. Not how our conversations usually start out.
Well, you could see how she's seated. You have that meeting the parents for the first time energy with your
I want the listeners to have a good idea of what we're doing here before we do it.
She's channeling Oprah, and you're doing an amazing job. I'm very proud of you, Corinne. So thank you. So my book, How to Find True Love, this is something that, I was a romantic child, so I feel like it's something that I've been focused on my entire life. But, professionally for the last 12 years, I've worked as a matchmaker and as a coach and helping other people to get into relationships and date better and love themselves. And I've learned a lot. And I've been very obsessed on this career journey of mine with figuring out why is it that one person has the easiest time getting into a great relationship and another person who has all of the same characteristics, right? They be in the same lineup. They have the same intention.
I think about this a lot.
Right. And why is it so hard for them? And so that obsession with answering that question has led me to write this book. And it took me a while because I never wanted to write a book just for the sake of writing one, just to be I wrote a book. I was there's no point of doing it unless it's something that can really help people. And so, this book is for anyone who feels like they have a deep calling in their heart to have a true love partnership, but you just don't know how to make that happen. And that's who this book is for. It's the title is literal. It's called How to Find True Love. And it's not like a clickbait, gotcha title.
No, it's not.
Actually what the book is about.
I have so many things to get into with the book. But one of the things that stuck out to me, there was a point in time where when Barnes and Nobles was still a thing. Are they still open?
Yes.
They are.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Well, I used to go to the Grove. I used to go to the self-help section, and I would spend time and I would buy books and I would read books on self-help, all different things, that and witchcraft. Those were the two things I was most interested in. And
that's where I would pick women up as a self-help section. I'm like, oh, okay, I can mold her.
Well, but I would find oftentimes I'm like, ugh, why is this so jokey? Give me real advice. Give me, your book reads to me. There's a lot of data that you call upon, which really legitimizes the things that you're saying, and your breadth of experience. And because I know you, the book reads exactly how you speak. So if you guys haven't listened to the Dear Franny pod, it is. I know you're recording the audio version, which I'm first of all, I'm absolutely rereading this when I have a hard copy that I can highlight, which I will have
Yes.
shortly.
Yes, you
And I'm
will.
going to listen to the audiobook. I don't even think reading this once is enough because you can't possibly get all the things you need. And I will admit that there's homework in the sections. I did not do all of the homework, but that's because I've taken your love course before, and some of the homework I've done poorly, but I've done it. Do you remember? I would like to tell this short story. She had told our class assignment for the week was to start a gratitude jar, and it was just to put
No,
in a glass
journal.
jar. No,
Journal. Gratitude journal.
No, it was a jar, and you could put it on an index card, and you put it in the jar. And so at the
Are you
end of
telling her?
yeah, I'm positive because I had a jar with index cards.
That
and-
doesn't mean that that's what she said to
Oh,
do.
You
It
well,
just misheard her.
Maybe.
Yes.
Well, I made a jar. And so every morning I would wake up and I would try and find something I was grateful for. And I have a really hard time with gratefulness. It's actually why I started doing ayahuasca. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do this thing that Franny's asking of me. And so I would do this. I would put it in the jar. And then the next week we got on our Zoom call and Franny was asking, okay, I want to hear from everybody, why doesn't somebody volunteer? Corinne, what's in your gratitude jar? And so I opened up a piece of paper and I said, well, Heather Fisher got really fat, and I saw that on Facebook. And then everything I pulled out, all of my gratitude was Schadenfreude. It was somebody else's misfortune, right? I was like,
Yes.
every single thing I mentioned. And she was like, why did you do that? And I said, you didn't say. There was not a rule. It's what am I grateful for? I'm grateful.
The first rule was it's not a jar.
Well,
And you broke that.
Yeah, you know what?
Anyways.
This is coming back to me, and I think I did ask you to do a journal, but you were like, I don't want to do a journal. I don't want to write. I don't journal. And so I was like, okay, can you? I think the jar was the modification.
That's
the
that seems
Corinnification.
logical. Yeah. So anyways, as you go through the book, there's all these things that jumped out at me. And so I'm just going to go for a little bit. I just want to point out some things that I thought in your book were really interesting and sort of some of my favorite phrases that you say, I want you to share with our audience. So, first of all, she does a whole history, which I found fascinating in the very beginning to bring you up to date. Grindr came out before Tinder.
Yes.
I mean, the gays had it figured out.
Wow.
I did not know that.
Yes.
I would have been certain that the opposite was true. That's crazy.
Around what year are we talking about Grindr came out?
Well, I didn't
Grindr
write
came
that
out,
down.
I think, in 2010. I think it was 2009, 2010, somewhere around there. And Tinder came out in 2012.
I think about Grindr and Tinder as more like hookup accounts. When would you kind of guesstimate that love online started? Because I remember eHarmony. Was that around 2012, 2013? And do you think that that was where mainstream people were first introduced to the idea of possibly finding love online because the guy looked like such a square?
Yeah, I think honestly, what happened with Tinder was, first of all, Grindr did come first, right? So there was this sort of association with finding somebody on an app as being a casual thing. But then also most of the users of Tinder in the early days were college students. So when you're in college, you're not looking for your forever partner, most
Some
likely in this
weirdos
day
are.
and age. Some weirdos are. Some people are going for
Uh-huh.
their MRS degree.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
But so I think so it was that, and then also because the reason that Tinder really took off the way it did was because it coincided with just smartphones and how ubiquitous
Yeah.
they became. And so the fact that everybody started having a phone, being on a site like eHarmony or being on a site like,
It was antiquated because
Match.com,
I was on Match.
it was
And
antiquated. Yeah.
yeah, you'd have to, you could only check your messages when you were near your laptop. So yeah.
Yeah. So then they
Okay.
tried building apps, but it was clunky. Yeah.
So the first thing that stuck out to me, this was a very aha moment for me. I really, really resonated with this. So you talk about why is love ranked? So why is it that you should love your partner more than you love your best friend or your neighbor? Or why is there a hierarchy? And then if you don't have the person that your soulmate, then your love doesn't count as much. And I
Yeah.
really, really, this really really struck me because I'm somebody that works very hard on having lots of love in my life from a lot of places, but I don't often have like the perfect person. And I do feel less than, even though I've like said to myself all the time, like that's unfair. And like my grandmother on her deathbed, she was literally in the hospital. I asked, my ex Lionel, we were broken up, but I asked him if he would come with me to her hospital bed and pretend we were still together because I wanted her to die thinking that I had someone. And he refused.
Hmm.
He was a dick.
Oh my goodness.
He refused.
Wow.
And when I went to see my grandmother and she asked, she said, are you still with Lionel? And I said, no. And she said, Corinne, some people don't find anyone and they're perfectly happy and that's okay. And I always thought that was so fucking depressing
I
that my
thought you were going to say
grandmother,
inspiring.
no, my grandmother was like, I've given up on you and I'm going to die thinking you're not going to find anyone and I'm okay with that. But like, I found it really like sad. Anyways, so when I read that in your book, I was like, my mind was blown. Like, oh my God, someone else validated that you don't, that there shouldn't be this thing. So speak to that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, what you're saying is like so common because so I call it like these love hierarchies, right? And we tend to put romantic love up on a pedestal. It's the best kind of love. It's the most special love. It's the love that makes life worth living. If you don't have that love, then nothing else matters.
Mhm.
And first of all, it's not true because all of us know what it is to be in a relationship.
Uh-huh. Mhm.
Where you're not living happily ever after, right? And you're not having the best experience. So it's like it's this lie that we just perpetuate, and then it starts to seep into how people feel about themselves. So, like you're saying, Corinne, is like, yeah, it makes me feel less than to say that,
Mhm.
like, my whole life I've been told this is the most special thing, and I don't have it. Like, of course, you're going to feel less than, with that framing. So, I mean, that's why like the whole first part of the book is just about your mindset. It's just about how you actually think about love because how you think about love is going to impact everything. Because just because you believe it, just because that's your perspective doesn't make it true, but it can make your choices really work against you.
I,
Yeah.
I did want to ask you, Franny, because in a way, the way that an individual feels about love can actually color and affect everything that they come in contact with during their day. If they meet, they're like, that could be the guy. Oh, he gave me his number. Let me call. Let me send flowers to that woman that might be interested. If you're gonna go about resetting somebody's vision of love, does that mean that you have to start at ground zero and maybe start to reset how they feel about almost like everything that they come in contact with throughout their day and throughout their adult life?
Well, I feel so yes. I mean, so what you're talking about, I actually talk about this in the book, which is like
Yeah.
I
Hey,
call it the meet cute mindset, right? And so the meet cute mindset is like literally just believing that every time you leave your house, you have the potential to meet someone special, right? So yes, you do. If you have that mindset, you are going to move through the world in a different way because
yes.
you're gonna be like, I don't know who this person is. I just know they're somewhere. So maybe it's this person next to me in line at the grocery store. Maybe it's this person. Um,
Mhm.
so yes, but there's so many layers to the mindset because that is a big one, and that's actually something what you just said is something I'm actually very passionate about because I like want people to break their dependency on dating apps. I'm like, open your eyes, be in the world, like interact with other humans
Yeah.
and embrace like the sense of possibility. Um, but also just even like understanding what love is, like that foundationally, right? Because like the way that we're conditioned to think about love is just as an emotion. It's just a feeling of love. Like we're just chasing that emotion. But guess what? Even people who you deeply love, you're not going to feel that every moment that you're interacting with them, right? And
Yeah.
Right.
so are you understanding that love is also a verb? So are you treating people with love, whether or not you feel it or not, for instance? So there's so many like ways in which people get just totally fucked about like what love is and how it's supposed to work that it just creates like huge obstacles to them actually having the love and the relationship in their life that they want. It's
We're
crazy.
gonna take a break, but
It really is. I
we're
was
gonna
so into what you were saying. I was like, keep talking, please.
we're gonna take a break. But
Yes.
when we come back, I have a bunch of other things to get into with you. I specifically want to get into deal breakers and sort of how I've dealt with those poorly. So we'll be right back. Okay, so I realized one of the things that you tried very hard. I remember during the course, it was like write down your 5 must-haves and like 5 would be nice to
5 needs,
haves. And
5 wants. Yeah.
yeah. And
Yeah.
then you only get a few of each, right? In the end.
No, it's not that you only get a few of each. It's just that if you were gonna build your perfect partner, you could go to town, right?
I did.
You could end up with a lot of like a long list of traits. And, at some point you have to ask yourself, like, am I actually understanding, first of all, that the purpose of me being in a relationship is not to have a perfect, ready to made, out the box person, but actually to like really grow in my capacity to give and receive love. So if you think about it that way, then you understand you need to focus. So, like, what are the things that if you met somebody who on the outside checked all of those boxes, like, you would still care about what it was like to be in a relationship with that person? Like, you would still care about how they treated you. You'd still care about what they were
Yeah.
into, what they valued. So, like, and it's not that you only get 5 things, but 5 things is just a good way to make you prioritize. So rather than going through like dating, like chasing this like collection of perfect characteristics, that you're actually like paying attention to, well, what do I actually need? Like, what are we going to
Yeah.
co-create together? And so the 5 needs are really, I want you to have all of them. The 5 wants, now that's something that maybe you get all 5 of those wants. I think you need to get at least 3. So otherwise you probably feel like
Well, so
you were
famously,
settling too much.
I again, fucking star student in this class, I came in with my needs
You
were
messed up the first assignment.
height, right? And you were like, that's not a need. And I was like,
Height.
money, right? Everything I came in with, she's like, literally none of those go under need. But what I wanted to ask you, which I didn't necessarily, I'm just curious what your thoughts are on this, because I didn't necessarily see this specific question answered in the book. And so I want to ask you. So the theory of deal breakers, which you talk about this, they're like, you talk about like a woman that's like, I want a Black Christian man and I feel it in my heart. And like, that's what I want. And like, you wouldn't try and convince her out
Has
of that.
this woman heard of the South?
Yes.
There's plenty.
So, but in my case, what happens with me is I will have like firm things that would be a deal breaker to me. But then when I really like the guy, I just throw them out the window. And so I'll give you an example. Like, I am very firm on I believe I need to live in America until my parents pass away, because I don't want to be so far from them in their older age. Now, if I met a really great guy who lived in fucking Australia, how much you want to bet? I'd be like, well, and so
You get a day back when you fly back to the States. So yeah.
So I'm wondering, like, how do you counter that part? Like, not sticking to your deal breakers, because all of a sudden this person, it's the infatuation versus like actual compatibility thing, I guess. But like,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
go ahead. What do you say to that?
Well, I think you're talking about things that are more circumstantial. And I would say that most circumstances, if it was the right person, you would get over it. Right. And
Oh,
so, what are the things that you would not get over it? So, like for you, children, if the circumstance of somebody is he has 3 children under the age of 10,
I'm currently
that
dating someone with 2 children under the age of 5.
okay, so
There goes
I'm
those
proud
deal
of you,
breakers.
actually. I'm proud of you, actually. So, but if that is a deal, that might be a circumstance that's a deal breaker for you, right? But you just have to know, like, it's like literally, like, if this person was, if we loved each other, we had a great time together, we were on the same page about the kind of relationship that we want to have, we had amazing sex, we just bring, like, we amplify the joy in each other's lives, but they live in Australia, so I'll just never going to see them again. Like, or would you be like, okay, that's worth it? So
Yeah.
I would think of like the deal breakers are the things that there's no circumstance under which, you know what I mean? That
Yeah.
like there's no reasonable foreseeable circumstance under which you would be with
I
someone
feel
who,
I I feel like
met that
I'm sort of
criteria.
I'm sort of like a doormat in that way, because I feel like okay, something that I feel pretty strongly about is religion is stupid. And I have
That's the name of her new book.
you know how many people I've dated how many people I've dated? You were there for the one.
I know.
in Joshua
I
Street
know.
who was
And,
like,
and
"But
I'm
you're
like,
going to
what
hell."
are you doing? Why are you going to Bible study, you lunatic?
Yeah. I forgot about that. Yes.
You went to Bible study?
Yeah.
Oh,
Regularly.
wow.
And I donated. And I was like, yeah, fire and brimstone. Ah.
That is the most shocking thing I've ever heard on. If you had said that to me, Franny, if we were like having like a drink and we were just talking, you're like, "Oh, Corinne went to Bible study." I'd be like, "Franny don't know Corinne. There's no way."
No.
I am stunned.
He was a model.
Okay.
How tall?
Oh my
Tall.
God. He was very tall
Yeah.
and very young.
I do have one question for you about deal breakers, Franny, because I think in this age that we live in now, where more people work remote and more people can decide where they want to live, there might be a situation where, let's say, I meet somebody and I think she's fantastic. She has 4 of the 5 things that I want, but she has to go into work and she lives in a very, very small town in Idaho. If I move there because she's got the 4 things,
Working
I
at the
love
potato
her.
factory.
Right. But then like I feel like once I got there, I'd be like, yes, you're
Yeah.
great, but every time I have to walk out of this door, I want to pull my ears off. So like
Yeah.
would that
No, this is
eventually
a good
bleed
point.
over into the Yeah.
Yeah, no, this is absolutely, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
No, please, I
this
was
is a
done.
real point because your lifestyle matters. And I think a lot of times people in this sort of fantasy version of love, any obstacle can be overcome, right? Like it does not matter. Like but no, the reality is the reality
Yeah.
is that if you have completely different like if you don't have lifestyle compatibility, you are going to have a lot of friction in your relationship. And maybe, some people work around this where they're married, but they don't live together. Some people don't live in the same town, city, or state or country even as their partner, and they just kind of travel to see each other. So there are ways to work around that. But I also think that that is a legitimate because if like living in a small town in Idaho will crush my soul, then like don't do that. Like that would not.
That's actually the name of the town,
thrive
Soul
in your
Crushing
relationship.
Idaho.
So yeah.
Okay, I just want to point out some other things that just are things that you say that resonate with me. So I love ready, able, and willing, which is
Yes.
the raw approach. Did I get it right?
You did. Perfect.
I'm like, why did that sound weird to me? Yeah.
Because you delivered it like a speak and spell. Like
Yeah. Well, I started to panic. I'm like, I say raw instead in my head instead of the 3 words. But I think that that's something that like I often do wrong, and I feel like our listeners, Lindsay, do that also. Where we're we're going after guys that are not willing, and it's so
Yeah.
obvious, and we're just like, no, it's fine, everything's fine.
Yes.
There's a lot of that in the
yes.
dating pool.
There is a lot of
Um,
that. There's a lot of that.
I also loved like when I got to the part
Do you
about
want to
love
explain this to
confidence.
people, Corinne?
Oh
Please,
yeah,
that
you
yes.
go
is,
ahead.
though?
I know. I just assume everyone knows all the things I know. Go ahead.
The
Okay,
book
really
came out
quick.
today.
Yeah.
Like, come on. Yeah. You guys should have not gone to work, knocked this out. Yes. Please explain.
So Ready, Able, Willing is a framework to use when you are dating for a relationship. If you're dating for something casual, who cares? Knock yourself out, anything goes. But if you're actually looking for something meaningful, you are looking to only invest your energy in people who are ready for the same kind of relationship that you are, meaning they can say, yes, I'm ready for a relationship. So if they're saying, I'm not sure if I'm ready for a relationship or
Yeah.
maybe,
Like
or then they're not.
there's so many people on the dating apps that say like it says relationship type and they're like, not sure. And I'm like, well,
Yeah. Yeah. Because especially for women, like for, anybody who was raised as a girl in our culture, we have gotten all this messaging of like, you don't want to pressure a man and you need to be patient and you need to convince him to
Mhm.
want to pick you and you need to be, if you're just sexy enough and sweet enough and this enough and that enough, then he'll wife you and you'll get put a ring on it. And so there's this like real like pick me, I'm going to prove myself kind of mindset that a lot of women really get indoctrinated with. So when you meet a guy, and especially if you're like, oh my God, he's tall, he's got money, da da da. So you want it to work out. And he's
Mhm.
like, I'm not so sure. I don't even know if I believe in monogamy. You're like, I'm going to get him to believe in monogamy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Or I always liken it to if you've ever tried to feed a squirrel, you're like, no sudden movements. Like, it's that always with me. And I feel like I always pick
Sorry,
those
Franny,
guys.
she's targeting our 90-year-old old man on a
I know.
bench demo.
Please don't try to feed squirrels. They have rabies.
Yeah.
Squirrels.
Okay. Well, we're gonna take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to force Franny to listen to some Go Nakeds and a listener Gmail.
Ooh.
Okay, let me cue it up. I have so many more notes in here. The book was so good. It's so good. I can't wait to read it again. I
Oh,
know it's
thank
gonna do so
you.
well.
Thank you.
Okay.
Did you see the cover, Al? Isn't it pretty?
That is so, honestly, Franny, my mom was an avid reader, and that font and that coloring
Yeah.
weirdly takes me back to just being, and there was a way that our house smelled because there were thousands of books in it, and they had covers like that. It's, that taps into a weird part of my youth, and so I love it, love it, love it, and I really like it.
In
Thank
my final thoughts, I'm
you.
going to plug her stuff.
It's beautiful.
Yes, and so April 27th, Bigsby's Folly.
Okay.
But I'll probably talk about it in a
You
little
got
bit.
You
it.
can do that.
Yeah,
I'm just going to say a podcast
that's
of
on
the book, and I'll
purpose,
ask her to hold the
Al,
book up.
because I
That'll be
literally
louder.
wanted the book
You can.
to be a retro 70s looking book that
Yes.
that it could be on your bookshelf in the 1970s, and it could be on
Yeah.
your bookshelf like 10 years
It-
from now and just look retro and vintage.
Mission
Yeah.
accomplished. Like when you
Definitely.
held it up, it was like really like weird to look at because it just I've never my mom was such an avid reader that like my life was surrounded by books and books that look like that. So that means a lot. So sorry, but
Okay.
that's I love the
That
cover. I
makes me so
love it.
happy.
Oh man.
All right, welcome back, guys. We are going to do a little bit more my safe word is more kind of shit up in this house. So first, I'm going to read you a Go Naked. I have to tell you, I've been sitting on this Go Naked. I read it to Chris probably like 6 weeks ago or something.
At
And
least.
I keep like, I don't know when I was like, do I read this to Richard? Because we just recently had Richard Jefferson on. And I'm like, no, Franny. So here we go.
You'll be the guest we offend.
Yes. All right.
And excuse me, not a guest. Gold Star swimmer. Excuse me. There's no
Yes.
guest here. Yes.
She's partial swim coach.
Absolutely.
Okay. This person says, I need some serious advice. Me and my boyfriend have been together for a year now. We both have severe mental issues, bipolar disease, depression, DID.
I don't know what that is.
I don't know.
And more. And I am not open to leaving him. I thought that was an interesting way to kick this off because, like,
Well,
are you asking for my
you're about
advice?
to hear some shit. That
Yeah.
like,
I just wanna say this.
buckle up.
You're not wrong. I've caught him cheating on multiple occasions, all texting and sending videos. I finally demanded he block one of the girls I caught him cheating with and calling me his ex with. The problem is, I said I was going to leave if he did it again. Now he says he'll only stop cheating if we have threesomes. We did it once before and I wasn't a huge fan, and he thought it fixed everything. I don't really understand his reasoning for this, and I have a feeling it's just for his sexual pleasure, which to me doesn't make sense because he also has ED.
What?
There's so many things happening. I'm just at a loss of what to do, and I guess I need some advice on loving myself. That's the main reason I won't leave. I am very dependent on him. So these kinds of people always tend to find each other, right?
Yeah. I mean, we're amazing at attracting exactly a match for what it is that we believe we deserve. Like, I mean, the fact that we have patterns, by the way, like relationship patterns, like if you think about that, like that's amazing. Cause it's not like as soon as you meet somebody, you're like, oh, you seem crazy and withholding. Like, it's like,
Mhm. Yeah.
you're like, oh, here I am again.
Yeah. Well, you
yeah,
always talk about it like it's a program that runs in the back of your brain. And it's really, you have to work really hard to reprogram it. I have not been able to reprogram it. I keep stepping into the same shit over and over again. But
Yeah.
I respect
But you
the
also
concept.
you do, but you also kind of stubbornly want to keep stepping in the same shit over and over again.
Well,
So,
I'm gonna.
Do you think the same is with this strange woman?
well, actually, you know
Oh,
what? I was actually going to give this strange woman some credit because she ended all of that by saying, I need some advice on how to love myself. So
Mhm.
she actually understands this is the real problem because all of this nonsense, like, this is ridiculous. What are we talking about? This is like saying, my friend is staying at my house and they keep shitting on the dishes. They keep like they keep like smoking meth in front of my kids. They keep like bashing holes in the wall,
By the
but
way,
I'm not
that
gonna
is
kick them out.
that is also very definitely could be a go naked.
Oh,
Like,
a lot
I'm
of
sure
math.
it is. You just haven't found it. You
yeah.
haven't tried hard enough.
Real quick, I just want to say DID is dissociative identity disorder, previously
Oh,
known
okay.
as multiple personality disorder.
Oh,
Oh, okay. Thank
I
you.
mean, this is gonna sound very judgy, but I feel like these people don't have money for healthcare and they've just self-diagnosed all of these things. Like, I don't
It-
think that like a
I think
psychiatrist
they might have
was
hit
like,
on a few of
I
them.
probably they got some
Yeah,
of them
probably.
right.
If you're calling
But
yourself all those things, there's something going on.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, along the
So
lines
I
of
just
advice,
so she needs to learn how to love herself because otherwise you would there's no way that you would tolerate being in this relationship if you believe that you were actually deserving of having love, respect, safety, kindness, having somebody adore you. Either it would be like somebody came and shit on your plate. Would you be like, okay, I guess I should just clean it up and be okay with it?
how tall were they?
You would have.
Yeah, I hear
But
ya.
again, when romantic love is in the special category, then we tolerate. That's another problem with it. Is like you
Yeah.
tolerate a lot of things that you would never tolerate from a friend or from a family member or from anybody else, but you're like, but I really want to be with this person, or they say they love me, or I feel this love for them. So I'm gonna let them totally disrespect me in the name of love. That's not love. That's actually fear.
I'm gonna
And I agree with that, but that's what kind of throws me off about this go naked. Sorry to give it so much credence, but the romantic and sometimes the sex is enough to keep people involved. But old
he
flop
has
dick over
ED.
here
Yeah,
isn't doing that.
I
So
know.
there has
I
to be something
I
that's pulling her.
yeah, I
Yes.
don't know. I obviously I'm not doing threesomes. Like, none of this is the cheating. And also, don't make a fucking ultimatum if you can't stand by it.
Yeah.
Don't say
Yeah.
that
That's
then. That's
you're just
terrible.
yeah.
Yeah.
You're playing yourself. You're like, yeah,
hmm
yeah,
I had
yeah.
a friend came to me, and then we'll get to this Gmail. I had a friend that came to me and she had asked me some advice. I gave her what I thought was good advice, but you touch on this a little bit in your book, and I just wanted to hear your take on this particular scenario because I've this is not the first time I've heard it, and I feel like my advice was solid, but I'd love to hear yours. So basically, a friend of mine, we're gonna call her Jenny. Okay, Jenny had been talking to this guy, like met this guy who was married years ago. They met like through the gym.
Okay.
And like she always thought he was really hot, but like he was married and whatever. But like he would always like they'd get coffee together, this and that. Nothing ever happened 8 years ago. He resurrects, like finds her on Instagram, messages her and is like, hey, this is really crazy, but I always kind of had a crush on you. My wife and I got divorced. I wondered if I could take you out. And she was like, yeah, like it's pretty exciting. Like this guy's coming back into her life in this way. And he was like very sweet and messaging and calling her every day before the date, picks like a lovely date spot. They go on this date. And then she decides she's really into him and they have a lot of sexual chemistry on the date. They go from like a couple different places and then she ends up sleeping with him. And
One of those places was her vagina.
yeah. And then he just completely ghosts, which is crazy because the courtship was really long. It's not like, she picked a guy like she felt like she knew him for a long time before they actually anyways, so she was upset and she said to me like, and I was like, first of all, to be clear, this guy was checking a box. He wanted to get you. When he got you, it didn't matter if it was one date or 3 dates. You would have just prolonged the inevitable ghosting. Like, I don't feel like you made a wrong
I agree
decision.
with
I'm
you.
not a big fan of saying like, because you do something like that on the first night, like you've blown your chances. And so I
I agree
wondered
with you.
if you could weigh in on that.
Yes. I love when we agree on these things, Corinne.
Thank you. I mean, mostly it's probably happening because like your voice is in my head. But yeah, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think the only reason, like if somebody is actually available, like going back to like that that ready, able, willing, like
hmm
that able is like they are actually able to show up and co-create a relationship. Like they actually have that like skill, they have that ability. And if they don't have that, then it doesn't matter if it's date 1 or date 3. Now, the only reason that I would say that, don't sleep with somebody on the first date is not because you're trying to string him along and get him to, want to commit to you. It's just really about just self-protection. Like, if you know that, like, this is what I always tell people. I'm like, because I have no moral judgment. I've had one night stands. Like, I have no, like,
Uh-huh.
knock yourself out. If everybody is a consenting adult, like, have fun, right?
Mhm.
But, like, ask yourself, if I never hear from this person again,
Right.
how will I feel?
Yep.
And if
One
the
of
answer is I'd feel really shitty, then,
Don't
don't
do
do
it.
it.
That's a perfect way to say that. The other thing you taught me, which I have always carried with me, and I have put it into practice as much as humanly possible, that when you go on a first date with somebody, like, they only get a certain amount of your time. And so basically
Mm.
you have to earn that amount of time. And so I used to go on a date. I'm not a big sleep on the first date person, but you can sleep over, but you can't, we're not going to, no
Yeah.
hanky panky.
You were
But
the
like, cause
queen
I
of the
just want,
12-hour date.
yes.
Yeah.
And you
Yes.
were like, they didn't earn that.
Early in our podcast, your dates were long. You'd be like,
I-
he went home and changed clothes. I'm like,
Yeah,
change clothes?
yeah.
What is this,
I
a
made him
J-Lo concert?
take his dog
Change
back. Yeah.
clothes.
Yeah. And like, I try, except for the most recent scheduling guy, for the most part, I'm very like, we're cutting this off. If we went to dinner, okay, when dinner's over, this date is over. We're not going to do the thing where we have 17 more drinks. Then you're at my house we're in my hot tub, like, no, it's not appropriate. You didn't earn that time with me. And I think that's
Yeah.
what makes me feel shitty. Like, sleeping with somebody I don't think would make me feel shitty, because I got something out of that too. But spending that kind of time getting to know somebody and then having them ghost me feels worse.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes total sense. And yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's like, and I understand what it's like when you meet somebody, you have that chemistry, you're like, oh, this is so exciting. But it just takes time to know, like, whether this person is actually able, right? And so
Right.
if you just give them all the access to you unfettered, like, forget
Yeah.
about everything I had to do. I'm just so open to you to just take, then the person who's willing to just take from you, um, that might be just all they're here for. And so
Yeah.
how do you know that? You know that just by getting to know someone's character. So a first date, like, yeah. And then you have something to look forward to. If you hit it off, it's great. Now it's like there's
Yes.
excitement, momentum
I-
for another
That's
date.
always my litmus test. If I leave this date going, when am I going to see this guy again? That's how I know I like them, which very rarely happens. But
I want to channel my girlfriend Sarah because she's such a rule follower. For this question for anybody that's listening, what is a good cap on a first date? Like time, like actual hours, minutes, a 3-hour date, and that's it. 60 minutes, like talk to us. Like, what's a good cap for a first date that goes well? That's going great. How about that?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think if it's somebody that you connected with on a dating app, so this is the first time you're actually meeting in person, I would say hour and a half tops.
Mm.
That would be and so not dinner, like, you shouldn't be going to a meal on a first date with
yeah.
somebody. You I actually did that back in the day when I was on Match.com, like, back when dudes would, like, they would message you, be like,
Mhm.
"Would you like to go to dinner? Would you like to go to brunch?" Like, that's how it was back then.
Yeah.
And then but then I had one too many experience where I was like, "We haven't even ordered yet, and I already wanna leave.
Yeah.
Why have I done this
Well,
to myself?"
don't worry. I live in Denver where no one has any money. So nobody's off. We're splitting the brewery bill. That's $14. Like, nobody's offering up dinner. So that's not a concern. Okay, before you leave, I
When
want
you're
to
on a
do.
bad dinner date, I will say you just tell the person this is a different French. I would like a steak to go. That's just the name of it. So just have them. That. Don't worry, I'm not leaving.
So somebody had written in about this, and I thought this was appropriate to ask you. So let's say I meet the man of my dreams, but he lives in Australia, and we're doing the long distance thing. Do you have any take on this? So this email says, "Hi, Corinne. Yesterday, one of my roommates was chatting about his ex's sister and how her and a guy she met online would control each other's sex toys remotely through an app. I literally gasped. Corinne needs to hear about this. Here are 3 of the things the app promises: provide solutions for long distance relationships. I don't know about a solution. Makes watching adult content more immersive and greatly improves engagement in live streaming. P.S. My roommates and I love you so much and are always looking forward to a new episode. Cheers, Yoan." So it was an odd question to me because I mean, not odd, like, I don't have any experience with it. I err on the side of being very anti any kind of technology. Yeah. And like, I don't like cheat codes for like actual intimacy at all. And I think it's weird. I think sex dolls are weird. I think like, a lot of that spectrum creeps me out. What are your thoughts? Do you think this is an effective way to keep a long distance relationship afloat?
Mm.
I mean, look, I think if you're going to have a long distance relationship, you need to have a plan to end the distance. So if it works for you to
Mm.
have a little remote fun time, then great. But if it now just becomes a reason of like, either to just say, "Oh, we can just indefinitely be long distance because we can," then I
Ah,
think that's when you're crossing a line where now it's like, well, do you actually like what is the intimacy that you really want? Now, some people like I want everybody to be in person. I want everybody to like, go back to like how humans have evolved for all of our lives up until 100
Totally
years
agree.
ago, right? Where we were in
yeah.
community and we looked out for each other. Um, but if it's for somebody a choice between not having this person that they love in their lives and not, then obviously that's everybody needs to make that choice for themselves. But I think that with long distance, you just need to be careful that you're not actually robbing yourself of a deeper level of intimacy that you really want, but you're like, okay, well, this is good enough. I just don't want people to
Yeah.
settle. Don't settle.
So, one last thing, and I just this is something that I'm very strict on, and recently have become like very obsessed with because I've gone through. I was in 3 different short term relationships last year. Each of them, every day, that person is texting me, "Good morning," which I hate actually, but
Yeah.
like in general, the texting, the over communication, like
Yeah.
"How's your day going?" But like
It's a big
it's
problem.
meaningless. It's meaningless. It is a false sense of intimacy. So with the
Hmm.
person I'm currently seeing, I was like, you need to pick up the phone and call me. The problem is he's not long distance, but because he has children, he's only available 50% of the time. But in these other, like, I don't need you to send me memes on Instagram. Like, pick up the phone and call me and like connect with me. The texting, I realized 3 times last year, I was like in this like situation where I'm getting, at least 5 texts a day, if not more. I'm getting no phone conversations and I'm seeing this person once a week. And there's this fake feeling of like a relationship, but there isn't one.
Yeah. I mean, I
I
agree
hate
with
it.
you, like, creates a false sense of intimacy, and I'm not a fan of like, if you have the foundation and you have the connection and, then it's a different relationship with texting, but if you're using that as the way of getting to know each other, you are really setting yourself up for, like, not knowing this person at all, but feeling like you do. And so I
Yes.
think you're right, Corinne, and this is what I always tell people, it's like, just I mean, you can say it in a loving way, in a kind way, where you're just like, "You know what? I'm not much of a texter. I much prefer phone calls. So, like, if you have time to chat today, like, happy to talk to you." And then you listen, and then
Yeah.
you see, like, okay, is this person are they able to meet me there and pick up the phone and call me? Or are they just like, "Oh, but I like texting." That they're already telling you that what you want and need, your
hmm
communication needs don't matter. So that's information. Be like, "Oh, okay, guess I don't need to talk to this person anymore because I know how this is gonna go." And
Yeah.
this I know this
I
is not
found,
where you were going with this
yeah.
question. Sorry, really quick, but this is
Yeah.
also, like, breaking patterns is recognizing what is that point when I met somebody where I realized, "Oh, this person is actually really selfish and not serious." And the more you can recognize that and then just stop engaging with them, then the pattern is broken, and then you get to start having a new experience.
Yes. And if I may,
Awesome
in 2 of the 3 situations, it's because that guy was texting a million other people. And it's very easy to keep the ball in the air when you're, first of all, the
Well,
lies straight, all that with texting. But like phone conversations are so much more.
especially the vague text that you were getting because I was watching Married at First Sight at that time early in our podcast, and all the fake Russian brides, they would all be like, "Good morning, darling," but there's no names. There's no
Yes.
like anything specific.
No,
How's your
yeah,
dog, Rex?
personal.
There's none of that. It's just these very vague, because you can tell a good morning has been sent to 7 women in that county.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, as we wrap up today's show, I want to tell the listeners, uh, all the ones in Denver, Matt, MP, everybody that lives in Denver, you all got to come out. We're doing an event where Franny is going to have a book party and I'm going to moderate it. We're going to ask her questions just like we did on this podcast. And it's going to be at Bigsby's Folly,
Oh, I
my
love that place.
my friend's winery. Yeah, it's April 27th from 4 to 7 p.m. So if you are in the Denver area or if you want to fly in for it, listen, fly the fuck in. We'll take it.
Yeah.
I'm just
Yes.
so excited. I really like I wanted to get my grubby little paws on this book and I wanted to do this podcast, even though Franny will actually be in person in a month. It just wasn't soon enough. So we are doing this podcast to whet your palate, but if you are in town and you want to come, we would love to meet you in person.
Yes.
Yes, we
And
would.
Chris, final thoughts,
I
please.
just want to, Franny, thank you so much for your wisdom. I hope you will continue to help guide our Corinne on her love life.
It sounds like a
help her
Thanksgiving prayer.
to navigate her relationships, although not too much because we really rely on the crazy for podcast content. So don't help her too much. But I do want to
Corinne
say,
is my Sistine
please,
Chapel.
yeah, please listen to Dear Franny, the Dear Franny podcast. And can you hold up your book? Because her new book, How to Find True Love, is out right now. It's so cool. It's like Sidney Shelton,
it.
Tom Robbins kind of like font. It's the coolest book I've ever seen. It's out right now. How to Find True Love. Please get a copy.
Yes. And with that, Franny, it needs to be said just one more time. You are forever family on this pod. We love you. And I think this is why people listen to this podcast, not just because it's a podcast about life, Corinne.
Actually, this time it's a podcast about love.
All right.
Oh, you guys.